all you would need is about a half a cup of this stuff. Like, we're not talking a huge amount. Now, what's interesting about it is the literature is suggesting that this can improve gut permeability in a very interesting way. Now, gut permeability is not something we typically want to increase, right? Because if that happens, you have larger particles of food that are getting into the bloodstream, and that is, well, it's commonly known as a leaky gut, which is so cheesy because it's so overmarketed and hyped, but it is a real thing. It is a very real thing. So you don't want high levels of intestinal permeability. You want selectively high levels of permeability so that nutrients can get in when they need to get in. So we're going to break down some newer literature on these two types of fruit that have this impact. So let's go ahead and break it down. After today's video, I popped a link down below for Create. Now, Create is a creatine gummy. The literature surrounding creatine is unreal, and it's coming out in droves. And this is the creatine that I use because personally, I like to space out when I take creatine. I don't like to take 5 grams at once because I feel like I retain more water. I like to take 1 gram little gummies, maybe 2 at a time throughout the course of the day. And when you look at the scientific literature, it's very strong right now. That's why so many people are talking about creatine. I had Dr. Darren Kandow on my channel, who's one of the leading creatine researchers, and we really went into detail. So the cool thing is that link down below is going to save you 15% off of these Try Create gummies. The whole idea behind this company is to stop the stigma behind creatine and to make people understand that everyone can take this. Women, teenagers, like, it's perfectly safe, and there are lots of randomized control trials. And this just makes it easy and convenient, where TSA isn't completely destroying your bags looking for mysterious white powders when you travel with creatine. Makes it convenient, makes it super easy to dose appropriately, so you get all the benefits without a lot of the drawbacks. So that link is down below in the description. So you'd want to combine these particular fruits typically with meat. I'll explain why. And before you click off the video as soon as you hear them out, I'm going to give you kind of the amounts you need to consume because it might vary from fruit to fruit. All right, so I'm talking about papaya and pineapple specifically. The reason you'd want to consume them with meats is something that you probably already know because it's like totally 1990s literature, but I'm going to talk about the newer stuff in a second. They have what are called proteases in them, bromelain and papain. So you remember those old papaya enzymes? Like, there were these really tasty little I don't know, kind of sugary little enzymes that have papaya enzymes to help you digest. Well, bromelain's the same way. Bromelain and papain from papaya and pineapple, they help break down proteins. So they help you absorb and utilize those proteins. That's tremendous. We definitely want that. But I'm focused more on the gut health side, not the digestion side. So yes, taking them with protein is certainly going to help the potential digestion, but we want to focus on getting more into the actual bloodstream, but we also want to focus on restoring our gut. So there was an interesting study published in the journal Metabolites. What they did is they took a look at mice and human cells. So they looked at actual mice and then human cells to compare and contrast the data. They gave mice just a small amount. They gave them 1 milligram of either papain or bromelain. Okay, and then they cultured human cells along with this as well to kind of see what would happen. It did 2 things. They increased the levels of Akkermansia mucina, which is a specific bacteria that's associated with mucus production. That's interesting, but we can't take that to the bank. But then there was a literal increase in the thickness of the mucosal layer. Everyone focuses on the microbiome. I want a diverse microbiome. I want this, I want that. Do you really know what you want with your microbiome? Do you really know what those little bacteria want in there? They're just freeloaders that they help us, but come on, they don't give 2 craps about what you need. They just live their life. Your actual cells in your body have a vested interest in keeping you alive. So let's focus on how we protect those suckers first. The mucosal layer protects the epithelial cells. So the thicker the mucosal layer, the thicker the barrier we have before those cells can get damaged from inflammation, from bad diet, from stress, you name it. So the fact that we saw an increase in the mucosal layer is huge, but there was an even crazier thing that happened. As I mentioned in the beginning of this video, it increased intestinal permeability, which normally I would be like, shoot, go away. We don't want that. Increasing intestinal permeability usually means that you're increasing how many bad things can cross through that barrier. But in this case, it only increased the permeability to low molecular weight markers, which means that it was increasing the permeability for small, already digested compounds that should be able to get through. So it increased potential nutrient absorption while still blocking the big compounds that we didn't want to get in. So with that, we improve, potentially, nutrient absorption while still maintaining that thick mucosal layer that protects us from the bad things. Now, the reason you want to take it with meat is it's an ideal time. It just makes a lot of sense to also get the protease effect, the protein digesting, like the enzyme effect there. You could certainly have the benefit of having pineapple and papaya, but there's a serious downside. You need to pay attention to this. Papaya and pineapple are high glycemic fruits, okay? They're not the kind of fruit that those tropical fruits are not the kind you want to just say, hey, I'm going to just go eat this willy-nilly for fun. I mean, you can, certainly. But it's a blood sugar skyrocketer. And if you're watching that and you're concerned with that, you want to consume it with protein. Okay, if you eat your protein first and then immediately eat the pineapple, you can get those benefits that we're talking about here, but you could also blunt the glycemic effect. Okay, so you're not going to get that huge spike in glucose. So don't just be like, hey, I'm going to go eat some acidic pineapple, because the acid in the pineapple might also trigger some acid reflux for you. It might cause some digestive discomfort. If you're concerned with getting like discomfort or indigestion or acidic foods bother you, I would opt for the papaya. It's a little more gentle. Now, what about quantities? The literature suggests that when it comes down to like the papain and bromelain, you don't even need that much. You could get by with about 3/4 of a cup or so of pineapple and 1/2 cup of papaya. So papaya is going to have more bang for the buck, but it's going to be a little harder and more expensive to come by. So you kind of have to balance that out. Another thing you may want to consider, this is just a fun fact, is consider occasionally eating unripe fruit. Not necessarily unripe pineapple or unripe papaya per se, just an extra little side note. And when I say unripe, I mean like 70 to 80% ripened, not like full on raw unripe, right? Like 3/4 of the way there. The tannins that are in unripe fruit can actually stress the gut just enough to increase the expression of the tight junction proteins. So the gut says, oh wait, this is a little hard to digest. We're going to actually increase protection. It's like a hormetic stressor. It's like sending your gut to the gym. We go to the gym to stress ourselves, get a little bit stronger, and then we develop and we adapt. Same kind of thing happens with your gut. At least that's what the literature is starting to suggest, but we don't know for sure. So a little pineapple, a little papaya, occasionally dabbling with like maybe an unripe banana, like a mildly green banana. Trust me, your gut will thank you. I'll see you tomorrow.